Hey guys, I'm Nicole Coquette and welcome back to my channel. This is my What's for Dinner video, and last week I had posted my grocery haul and I discussed a little bit of my meal plan. So this is the video where we show what I actually ended up cooking this week. And I will say I'm pretty proud of myself. For the most part, I stayed with my meal plan. I may have switched a few days around and we did do a leftover day, but it wasn't bad. I feel pretty accomplished. Okay, so the first meal that we did for this week was on Sunday, and it was the pulled pork in the slow cooker. I took a Boston butt. I think it was about 6 pounds. It was like 99 cents a pound, so it was a really good deal. And I went ahead and made a rub. So I took chili powder, cumin, salt, garlic powder, onion powder, paprika, black pepper, and I think a little bit of cayenne pepper. I'm showing you all of the spices in here, and it really doesn't matter. I think I did about a tablespoon for each one, and then I did about a cup of brown sugar, and then you're going to mix it together and make you a rub. That is the important step here. Once it's all mixed together, we are going to take that, I guess it's actually a pork shoulder and not a butt. But you take the shoulder and you put it in a bowl and you rub the spices all over it. You want to make sure it gets super flavorful. And then once you have it all covered in the rub, you are going to put it in your slow cooker and you're going to cook it on low for about 8 hours at least. So to go with the pulled pork, I decided that I was going to make some coleslaw. So an easier method, instead of chopping up the cabbage and the carrots, is to just buy a bag of tri-colored coleslaw mix. It's really cheap at Walmart, so I got that and I threw it in my food processor to kind of chop it up. You don't have to. Some people like to have their coleslaw kind of large pieces, and I think I'm going to try that the next time I make it, because I always kind of chop it down really fine, and I do kind of like it that way. I'm used to it that way, but I do think it might be interesting to try the big pieces and to see if I like it better. After we have got the coleslaw mix to whatever consistency you like, we are going to go ahead and add a half a cup of mayonnaise. It can be whatever brand you want. I personally prefer Duke's. I recommend it for the flavor, but whatever you have will work. Then we are going to do 2 teaspoons of sugar, a half of teaspoon of celery seeds. Now, I will say that do not skip out on the celery seeds. Obviously, if you don't have it, it's okay, and it is kind of on the pricier side, but I've invested in this and I only use it for coleslaw. But I feel like it is the key ingredient, because this recipe that I'm making is like a Bob Evans coleslaw, like a copycat recipe. And the celery seeds is literally what makes it. So try not to skip on that if you can. Then it is a half a tablespoon of apple cider vinegar and 1 tablespoon of white vinegar. And then you're just going to add some salt and pepper to taste. Mix it up real good. And then you're going to put the lid on it and then put it in your fridge to marinate until you're ready to use it later in the day. Okay, now this part of the meal ended up being a big old flop for the most part. I was going to attempt to make hamburger buns. I've made them before. They've turned out good. I've come to the conclusion that I think my yeast was bad, because I also attempted to make rolls back around Thanksgiving and they didn't turn out well at all. When I was making these hamburger buns, whenever I pulled out the dough, I had to keep adding flour to it because it was just so sticky. And I couldn't do anything with the dough. It didn't really rise that well whenever I put it into the pan. But I baked them and they didn't look great. They didn't really turn out the right texture, but they didn't taste bad. And I did use them. I cut them, and whenever I used them, I kind of just treated it as like an open face sandwich. For the side dish, I took some of the russet potatoes and I cut them up into wedges. And then I threw them in a bowl and I added some canola oil to them. Olive oil will be, better, but I had canola oil already in my little squirty tube, so I added that. And then I took just some Lowry's seasoned salt, but you could honestly season them with whatever you like paprika, pepper, salt, really to whatever your heart's content is. But I just went the easy route and used seasoned salt. Shake them up real good, make sure they're all coated, and then put them on the pan. And then I baked them in the oven. I think I did like 420, and I did like 20 minutes on one side, and then I flipped them. And I kind of just kept flipping them over because I didn't want them to get too burnt. But, just keep your eye on them and make sure that they're a little crispy on the outside, but you don't want them to get burnt. Okay, the final step in the process for the pulled pork is now I have to get all of the pulled pork out of the slow cooker. So I just use some tongs and like a big giant serving fork, and I start kind of pulling it out. It's tender. It's been in there for a very long time, so it's coming out in chunks. And I do have a bowl to the side, and I kind of get a ladle and just kind of scoop out some of the liquid because there's a lot, and I don't want it to be like soupy. So we're gonna get some of that out. We're gonna shred all of this pork and get it into the pulled pork variation. And then I have a bottle of barbecue sauce. It wasn't a full bottle, it had already been opened, but I figured we would just use it because it was mostly full, and because it already had the rub. I rubbed it, and that's what gave it all the flavor. So after I had shredded it and then put it back into the slow cooker, I took that bottle of barbecue sauce and just emptied the bottle in there and then kind of mixed it up. And then we had our meal. We used my horribly deformed hamburger buns that I made. And like I said, it really worked well by just kind of doing it with an open face sandwich, and then put the pulled pork on top of the bun, top it with the coleslaw, and then serve it with a side of potato wedges. And I was really proud because technically this was a completely from scratch meal, so yay for me. Okay, since Sunday's meal was super laborious and I made everything from scratch, I really took the easy route on Monday. I took those spicy chicken sandwiches and I baked those for like 20 minutes at 420. And then I took the French fries that I got and I made those as well. Super easy. I did go to the store and buy buns because I threw out my yeast, and since I flopped hardcore on the buns that I made the day before, we were going all easy. So that was Monday. Okay, for this meal, I don't know if I lost the footage or if I just didn't record it all and thought that I did, but I made drumsticks with broccoli, mashed potatoes, and gravy and stuffing. For the drumsticks, I literally just made my own shake and bake mixture with flour, salt, pepper, paprika, onion powder, garlic powder, and baking powder. The baking powder is supposed to make it crispy, but I coated them all up and then I baked them in the oven, made a real easy box of stovetop stuffing, made a little package of gravy, and made some mashed potatoes from scratch, and it was super delicious. The next dinner was super easy. It is my Cajun chicken Alfredo meal that is in the slow cooker. I actually just put up a video a few days ago of the entire recipe, so I'll have it linked below if you're curious on how I made that. The next day was another easy day. We just did leftovers, and I made some pizzas. That way there's a little bit of a variety. I just didn't want all that pasta to go to waste. One of my favorite dinners that I made this week was a Cajun sausage skillet, and it has like rice and green peppers and tomatoes. It's really good. We ended up actually having this twice. I made it again the next day because my youngest asked for it, so I had everything that I needed, minus I only had half the amount of sausage, so it was a little bit lacking on the sausage the second time, but it's super good. For the most part, this was a pretty simple recipe. You take your sausage, andouille is preferred, but you could honestly use whatever you have, and you saute it in the oil that you got hot in your pot. And then you're going to take a green bell pepper, and after you've sauteed your sausage for a while, you're going to throw your peppers in. Then you're going to take spices. You're going to use paprika, oregano, thyme, onion powder, garlic powder, powder, cayenne pepper, black pepper, and I think that's everything. I show everything on the screen, so if I forgot to mention one, just look at what I'm throwing in there. And then you're going to take some fire roasted diced tomatoes and throw them in. And then you are going to take, in this recipe, it calls for 1.5 cups of chicken broth, and you can just use like a small can, or if you want to use a bigger carton of it and double the rice, I would just double all the spices and the pepper and sausage as well. But with that 1.5 cups of broth, you're also going to do 1 cup of rice. After you add all of your ingredients, you are going to let it simmer and get to a boil. And then once you get it to a boil, you're going to cover it and then put it down to low and let it simmer for 20 minutes. And then once it's finished, it is good to go. Just put it up in a bowl and serve it, and you will absolutely love this dish. And that is it for this video. If you enjoyed it, please consider giving it a thumbs up. It would really help out my channel. And if you liked it, please consider subscribing. That would also help me out, and I would love to have you here more often. I do have some videos linked below that have to do with the grocery haul and with the recipes that were in here. And I guess I'll catch you next time. Bye.